Thanks for joining us today. This is Courtney. I am the VP of Sales for Software. And with me today, I have Brian Garrigan from the DSP Simplify team. Brian, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Courtney. I'm Brian Garrigan. I oversee sales for our agency and brand division here at Simplify. Excited to have the conversation and talk to you a little bit today about some of our value proposition.
Perfect. Brian, you and I have been working together for a little over a year now as we recently had the acquisition from an Advantage perspective, and then some of our other softwares that we've purchased. We've had a lot of conversations about some of the things that we could be doing in the industry around CTV, helping with that CTV purchasing for our linear buyers, and much more. But we would love to get your take on just Simplify and the DSP side of our partnership and what we could potentially bring to the table for our software users.
Thanks, Courtney. Just like any other DSP, Simplify can overlay third-party data on top of programmatic inventory. Simplify can build and work with first-party or data and overlay that on programmatic inventory. We can build and optimize and report on customized segments, just like any other programmatic DSP. But that doesn't really make us unique. I'd argue actually that most DSPs at this point are highly commoditized, and they're all trying to find something that is unique about their own product or solution. So oftentimes they get caught up in discussions around the onboarding process, or potentially their self-service solution or something similar. Simplify has actually an advantage when it comes to being able to offer the market actually something that is highly unique about the product specifically. And that is in the fact that we are, for all practical purposes, a DMP as much as we are a DSP. So said differently, we are in the data collection business as much as we are in the media execution business. So while we can do everything our competitors can do, we oftentimes don't go to market with that because, like I had mentioned earlier, it is commoditized. And we really talk more specifically about what unique value we can bring into the mix. And that's around what we can do with the DMP. And one of the unique things is after we collect the data through our own efforts, we never put it into a segment. We leave it in its raw or its unstructured format, which allows us to look at the performance metrics associated with the data itself instead of the segmentation of the data. This oftentimes allows us to have some unique targeting tactics that you can't get in other DSPs, which oftentimes leads us to get to goal faster using fewer impressions. It also allows us to have a more transparent look at what's working and not working in the campaign, providing us with a deeper level of optimizations that you can't get with a segment-based approach. And then we also have more transparency on the back end. So when we're looking to extract a report, we can actually report on the individual data level versus the segmentation level. So it allows us to have a much more understanding of what's driving success in the campaign and what's not.
Great. It sounds like there's a lot of opportunities for any agency and brand, and you've touched on it a little bit, but what are some unique ways that they can work with you from a DSP perspective?
So there's a lot of different ways that organizations can work with us. We like to kind of look at the organization and build a custom path for them. We do a lot of managed service insertion order work. So if the agency or brand wants Simplify to do a vast majority of the heavy lifting, what we can do is we can accept an insertion order. We'll build that campaign for them. We'll optimize it for them, and we'll report back on the success specifically for them. So they can lean on us to not only be their service provider for all the heavy lifting they need to onboard any programmatic execution campaigns, but also a unique strategy provider when it comes to what we can do on the DSP side. If somebody has a need to get into the system and really wants to have a hands-on keyboard self-service approach, we have a fully functioning UI that allows anybody to go in and build their campaigns on their end with great levels of transparency. And it's in fact the same UI that our client services team works on through our customer service team. So they're going to have the same tools at their disposal that our experts have at their disposal, and they have the ability to go in and do any tweaking as needed on an ongoing basis. We also have several organizations, numerous clients that really focus on a hybrid approach. So they might want to lean on us for potentially optimizations and extracting campaign reporting, but they might want to go in and do their creative swaps or maybe launch a campaign on their end. So we have this hybrid model that allows them to do that as well, and kind of have the best of both worlds of leaning on the service organization when they need to, but also having the access to see what's been worked on and add value whenever they feel necessary. We also have numerous integrations either that are on the way or live right now with organizations like Advantage or other software organizations where you can find Simplify really kind of at that entry point of where people start building and executing media plans. And we're trying to expand that footprint as well.
That sounds great, Brian. Our customers are used to being able to customize their software in a lot of different ways. So it sounds like they can customize their use of the DSP as well. Can you talk to a little bit more about what kind of inventory you have available?
Sure. So there's a couple different ways to answer this question. I think the first way is probably what type of inventory overall do we have available, right? So for instance, being a programmatic DSP, we're plugged into all the programmatic pipes. That means we have access to CTV inventory. In fact, we have about 90% of all the AVOD inventory in the US available through our platform, where a lot of other DSPs fall short and might run into scale problems when it comes to CTV. We tend to fix those problems and provide a superior solution when it comes to the amount of inventory we have. But we also have your standard programmatic inventory, your display, your online video, programmatic audio and native as well, in addition to what we do on the CTV side. Now, the second way to answer that question is what can we do with the inventory? If there's interest potentially in subsets of that inventory, can we work with that? And the answer would be yes. So just about everybody that I talk to has a different definition of premium, right? And premium is defined as whatever the brand that's executing the campaign feels is important to that brand's brand standards, right? So we have all sorts of different conversations and end up building numerous different customizations into campaigns that can represent what those brand standards are for the various advertisers that we work with. So if said differently, an advertiser has a need to find a home amongst some of the most premium inventory across the ecosphere, so to speak, we can do that by working with PMPs, deal IDs, or even direct integrations with various different publishers that we work with. However, if goals are more important than inventory, we have the ability to, toggle outward and focus more on the delivery against whatever goal might be driving that campaign forward. So know that we can work with numerous different types of inventory across all the different types of inventory sources that we have available across the platform.
Great. You've mentioned a couple of different options with using the DSP. But you guys have some unique targeting tactics that I know are applicable just from a Simplify perspective. Can you talk more to those?
Yeah, so that's one of the interesting things about working with Simplify is, as much as we want to be the core DSP for any organization to onboard all of the buys and executions through our platform, we realize that there's numerous situations where DSPs are already embedded into buys and part of kind of a strategy above and beyond what Simplify can potentially offer right now or currently. So that being said, there's still a home for Simplify within those organizations, right? A great example is, some of the unique targeting tactics are undressable or unstructured data, I should say, brings into the mix and allows us to action against. One of those tactics is called our addressable solution. Right. So we have in our platform onboarded 126 million households at the property line level. This means we have all 126 million households available for targeting within our system. We could do that in a couple different ways. One, if you have any first party data at the address level, we can inject that into our system and match that address at over a 90% match rate to find the households that matter the most for your list, for your campaign. That list could be an inclusion list or an exclusion list against the campaign, depending on how you want to move forward and what type of strategy you're trying to take. If you don't have any first party data and you want to lead on us to do some audience curation, we have about 600 different qualifiers we can add on top of each one of those households to find the household that matters the most for you. So should it be behavioral based data, demographic based data, credit card based data, credit bureau data, so on and so forth. We have access to multiple different sources that will allow us to understand and curate the households that matter most for that campaign at that level. Then, to take it one step further, we have some really unique attribution on the back end for something like that too, that allows us to not only understand the performance metrics associated with the inventory and the impression totals, but where those campaigns actually kind of occurred, and then how they specifically unfolded. So if you're looking to measure online conversions from household targeting, or potentially trying to drive users into individual locations, we have the ability to do both those and then report back on a sub zip code level to really provide almost like a neighborhood level insight report for any advertiser that wants to take advantage of that tactic.
It certainly sounds like a lot of data. So given that amount of data, can you talk a little bit about what kind of reports you could actually get from the system? Because it's certainly helpful to be able to do some of these tactics, but if we can't report it to a client, it's very challenging.
Sure, true. So I think one of the things that Simplify really kind of provides a different or unique look around is what we could potentially do on the reporting side, right? So we had talked about earlier the fact that we're collecting data in a raw and unstructured format, right? Yeah. Again, this allows us to, basically kind of go to market and find the data that's working in any given campaign at any given time, and then focus the energy and emphasis and the bids on the data that's working, and then drop the other data in real time, right? Go find more data potentially just like the data that's working and scale into that campaign with great effectiveness. That process that I just described there is also available on a reporting basis. So we'll be able to extract information on what actual data drove the conversions, or the CPC, or the CPL, or the CPA, or whatever goals we're trying to uncover during that campaign. It'll allow us to have a better understanding of what success looked like and where the campaign started and stopped versus a segment-based approach. Because during a segment-based campaign, and what most marketers are used to seeing is the name of that segment, and then the impression total and the goal potentially associated with that impression total. It's usually a singular line item associated with that segment name. With us, if there's 100 pieces of data in the campaign, we'll provide a report for each piece of data. So you'll have 100 line items underneath the campaign summary report, giving you the insights and information you would need to have a more detailed conversation on what was working during the campaign timeframe.
With that, could we run, you just mentioned summary and line item detail. Are there reports that we can run ourselves, or are those typically run by your team and sent over to us?
So great question. Both would be available. So if somebody wants to get into the system and have access to the platform and go into our reporting dashboard, they can have access to that information. It's refreshed usually in real time. So I mean, everything's very up to date. If they want to lean on us to send them reports, we can send them as frequently as someone would want. There's no limitations to the amount of reports that we can send, or to the time frame of when they would be available. So if somebody wants an hourly report, we can send them an hourly report. If somebody wants a report once a week, we can send them a report once a week. Perfect.
I think an hourly report seems like a lot, but I know there's certainly some individuals who might find that interesting. Is there anything that we haven't really talked about, but that our agency should absolutely know about Simplify?
So, we're an organization, we've been around for roughly about 12 years. Recently, we were acquired by a large PE firm called Blackstone. The acquisition went through, I would say, in early Q4 of last year. And it came with a large valuation, about $1.5 billion valuation, which is very exciting. A lot of the funds that we were able to secure from Blackstone are fueling our acquisition strategy, which is, one of the reasons we're talking today, because Simplifi has acquired Advantage Software, Core, numerous others, as of recently. And I think we're going to continue to look at other opportunities that provide synergies into what we're trying to accomplish over our long-term goal. So it's been a great place to work. I've been here for 8 years. The team that I work with, which is the agency and brand team, a big chunk of my organization has been here for about 5 years plus. We have very low voluntary turnover. And I think some of the great reasons that exists is because the product is, it does what it says it does. It's amazing. And it's a great product to represent. And the organization and culture, I think, are something that are really kind of exciting, and people get attracted to and want to be part of it as we're kind of growing and offering various different things to our clients. as salespeople and leaders, what we want to do is we want to provide our clients with products that work. We want to provide our clients with solutions, that shows that we're more than somebody that's just, going to market with something that, we want to sell, but almost really kind of position ourselves as a partner that allows not only ourselves to grow, but our clients to grow with us, right? And their growth is the priority over, anything else. And I think that we have been able to deliver against that time and time again, which is one of the probably most exciting things to think about when my time across my time that I've been here.
Well, I know we've definitely been working close together over the last year as we try to find synergy with our teams, both from a sales perspective on the software side and also the DSP. So given that an agency might have connections with Simpli.fi DSP and with an Advantage or core rep, what's the best way for us to be communicating with your team what's the best way for our agencies to be communicating with your team? Is it through their sales director or is it through you guys directly?
So I think it's probably great to set up a conversation with my team directly. The first step to do that would be to connect with your Advantage sales seller or sales rep and see what we can do to have a strategy discussion with the Simplifi team to talk through, what advantages there would be to, bringing the Simplifi DSP into their mix, for sure.
Well, and if they, I'm assuming, if they're not fully aware of who their sales rep is, which we can certainly make sure that they are aware of, but they could go out to your website. They can also just
Brian at Simplifi is my email, Brian, BRIAN at Simpli.fi. Anybody can always reach out to me. The website has some great resources on it, as well as, various different ways to get in contact with our organization. I think our general email is hi@simpli.fi, and that goes into basically our marketing team's queue to basically prompt the right person in the right neighborhood to get in touch with whoever the person would be on the other end of that note.
That makes sense. And Brian, I just want to say thank you. I know we've been sending out emails for a couple of months, and we definitely have been training, as we talked about, our sales directors to be contacting both our clients and our prospects to encourage them to know about all of our offerings. But I think it's really great that we were able to jump on a call today and just explain in a little bit more detail the DSP side. We certainly have a lot that we're working towards from a software and integration perspective, but I think it's great to give just a little bit more exposure to our clients from a software perspective on what the DSP side can do.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate the time and the questions, Courtney. Thanks for allowing us to do this. This was great.